Hey, financially savvy travelers, welcome back to another episode of the Thought Card podcast. It has been some time since we have had a full-blown personal finance themed episode. It's the new year, and you may have investing in the stock market as one of your money goals. So today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to Ange Marie, who shares the importance of investing and how to make room in your budget to get started. Ange Marie is a money coach who helps women learn to invest so they can grow their money without, keyword here, without working extra hours on a side hustle. Here's a little bit of background into Ange's story. Through investing, she built a $10,000 plus portfolio in only 18 months, which in turn will help her become work optional in her 40s. We often hear that we should or we ought to be investing, but I believe that it's way more powerful to hear real stories of what investing can do for us and how it can shape and better our lives. Am I right? As a money coach, Ange now helps women start and build their investment portfolios to generate passive income and ultimately have more options in the future. I encourage you to listen to Ange's podcast, Building Wealth for Women, and follow her on Instagram at The Growth Corner UK. All the links, per usual, are going to be in the episode description. Welcome to The Thought Card, a podcast about travel and money, where planning, saving, and creativity leads to affording travel, building wealth, and paying off debt. We are the financially savvy travelers.
For me, I would say wealth building is building sort of this money to be used for the long term. I wouldn't say that it's something that is a short term. And I would also say the way that we do build wealth is something that is sustainable as well. So it's not just something that, tomorrow it's going to be gone. Like some people may say, as an example, so I'm a money coach, I teach about investing, but obviously I know about crypto and things. And they may say that's a way of building wealth, but that may not be as sustainable as, say, investing in the stock market for 50 years. So for me, it has to be something that is long-term and sustainable so that it can continue generating you wealth. That is really important as well. That's something that can continue to generate you wealth, even if you're in it or not. And I think that's like the most important thing. You don't have to actively be into this thing that's building you wealth, but actually you can be inactive and you're still getting money from it, which I think is just amazing, to be honest.
I grew up with financial literacy, a lot of saving money. When I was into my teenage years, my mom started with investing and that sort of thing. But it wasn't until after I got maybe in my 20s that wealth building became this buzzword, and generational wealth became something that is out there. And the reason why I was so excited to have you on the show, Anne, just because I feel like a lot of times we jump into investing tactics and wealth building tactics without understanding what the term wealth building is. So today I want to simplify it for folks and to really build that foundation so that once you know how you want to go about building wealth, then you just pick and choose how you want to go about it. So I love that you mentioned sustainability, and this is long term because we're going to touch on this a little bit later. So why is wealth building so important, and when should we be thinking about wealth building?
Yeah, I love this question because, like you say, it is such a buzzword that you start thinking, why should I even do this? Why is it important? And I would say the biggest thing for me is wealth building gives us options. So I come from, I'm an immigrant actually as well. Like my parents immigrated here. They took us from the country and then we're in the UK now. And actually, my parents are getting older now and they're not retiring. My mum rings me every week and says, I just want to retire. I just want to retire. But actually, when you build wealth, especially from a younger age, and it doesn't matter what age you are the youngest you are at the moment, it gives you options, especially for people on this podcast. They want to travel. And if you want to have a big traveling trip, building wealth now can give you that chance to go have this big traveling trip without having to really worry about money. Because you know you've got something in the background that's going to be generating you something that you're not then having to work when you're out there. You can completely enjoy it and know that you're getting this little money that you're getting in every single day, that you can just relax. And I think that's what I love about it, is these options that we're not given. Like even what you said, generational wealth. I think about my future children and I know that they're going to have generational wealth, something that I never had. And that is amazing to me, that because I'm doing this right now, they will never have to worry about money, which a bit different from me with my family. We worried a bit more about money. And I think that is just the most amazing thing, why it's so important. It just really gives you options for what you want to do in your life. You don't have to do the whole go to school, work the 9 to 5, retire at 65. You can go to school, work a little bit, then, decide, you know what, I want to quit my job now. And I'm financially stable to do that. Like, I'm not going to be on the streets tomorrow. I'm actually stable to do that. And I can do that. And that's what I think is why people should be building wealth. And you can start right now. If you didn't start yesterday, today is the perfect day to start. So that's what I would say to answer that question.
I love that. And it is true that having wealth, building wealth, having that top of mind does give you the freedom to make decisions that definitely can take your finances to account, but may not necessarily either. So I quit my job in 2021 because I was in a financial position to do so. I had reached my coast-fi number. I had done all of these things to make sure that I can have that option versus feeling trapped or versus having to do something for an extended amount of time that I don't want to do. So that freedom to me, and something else I've noticed is that financial independence and freedom, you don't have to wait until you reach millions of dollars to get there. Like just simply me being able to quit my job and having that buffer was me tapping into my financial freedom. Like that was freedom to me at that point, right? Funding my maternity leave as an entrepreneur a couple years ago was financial freedom. I did not have to work for 4 months because we had set up our finances so that we can enjoy our time with our baby. So there's just so many ways that financial building of wealth shows up, not necessarily always like when you're elderly, but also in your day-to-day life that you can like tap that in. Any examples, like have you noticed that like as you're on your wealth building journey that there are opportunities of that freedom that you can tap in today versus waiting like decades and decades later?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, definitely would be traveling. I think I'm able to tap into that now. So I've spoken to Danielle before the podcast, and actually, I'm traveling towards the end of the year. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go traveling. And I know that, for example, that my investments will have my back. Like I know that I'm not going to be out of pocket when I do go traveling. So that's like a big thing for me as well. And I think that's a big thing that can really help people. And like what you mentioned, maternity, like a lot of people don't think about this, especially if you are an entrepreneur. When you are an employee, you get these benefits, and now you want to have a baby, you really need to start preparing for that. But then that does give you the freedom to do that, like the freedom to be able to say, okay, I don't want to work for 4 months. I'm just going to look after my child like you did, which I think is amazing. That is a freedom that investing can give you, or being financially stable can give you. And I would also say just having the option to quit when you want to quit. Like a lot of us say, yeah, retire early, like, yeah, 40s or 50s, but you might be someone who enjoys your job. But you might get to a point where it's like, I am tired of this job, right? I am tired. And then you can just quit and go do what you want to do and go experience the world. Go look after your parents if you want to, be with your family, build houses, go volunteer and have that freedom. And then you can have that time freedom. And I think that's also important, just being able to have that option of saying, I can quit whenever I want. This isn't forever. I think that is really empowering.
And it's personal, right? We always say personal finance is so personal and we can decide what that looks like, right? But we have to plant the seeds today to be able to reap that later on in life. So I'd love to pivot a bit and talk about strategies. So, what are some of the most common strategies for building wealth?
Yeah, so I would say there's like three main common strategies when it comes to building wealth. So the first one is having your own business. That is definitely a wealth building tool that a lot of us do look into. Some of my clients who I work with also are looking into building businesses. And that is because of the freedom that it can give you. You get to decide what you want to do, how you want it to work, and have that autonomy that you may not have in a traditional 9 to 5 job. And that is because as an entrepreneur, you can basically make as much money as you want, essentially, right? So that is a great way to build wealth. The second one, which a lot of people want to look into, is real estate. So people want to buy houses and flip them potentially and get renters in or sell them or whatever you want to do. That is a way that you can build wealth. Whether or not is the best way to build wealth, I don't know. I mean, I'm probably going to go into real estate, but at the same time, I know that it's not like my favorite thing to do. I think this is why me and my husband are delaying it as much as possible, to be honest. And my third and favorite way to build wealth, of course, is investing in the stock market. It is one of the best ways because it's so accessible. It's so accessible to everyone. It doesn't have a lot of buy-in. And for me, it is just a very relaxed way to build wealth. And that's, I would say, the top three ways people can build wealth at the moment.
Well, I'm on the right track. Business owner, check. Investing in the stock market, check. That's great. And I think what's amazing about having these different levers that we can pull is that you can decide which of these and more that you want to pursue, right? You don't have to do them all. You don't have to do one versus the other. You can really pick and choose what fits really well for you. Like I have family members who are all in real estate and they have many doors, many properties, and they talk to me about all the headaches. But, when they sell the property, they have this huge payout at the end, right? So that's something that it has pros and cons, but as all of them do. So I really do appreciate that. Today, I want to definitely focus in on investing in the stock market in particular. What are some of those barriers that you feel like when you talk to your coaching clients in particular that they tell you as to like why they haven't started investing in the stock market, and how do you work with them to get them to the point where they feel comfortable with taking that risk and doing something that may be a little scary for them?
Yeah. And I think you mentioned a really good word there is the risk. And a lot of my clients who do come to me are scared to invest because they're scared to lose money. There's a lot of angles with this. So some of them may see it as gambling. A lot of us have heard that investing is like gambling. You're gambling your money in the stock market. Don't do it. One of my clients actually had her parents were saying, oh yeah, like they've told me that investing is like gambling. And that really puts people off because, with gambling, you're most likely to have a negative result. You're most likely to have a negative outcome. So then if you think about investing, you don't want to have a negative outcome because the main reason they have this fear is because they're scared of losing money. It's that loss of money where you put something into something and then it's gone the next day. I think that is that feeling of, oh, I'm going to put something into the stock market today and tomorrow it's going to be gone. I definitely felt that way when I first started investing. And I was constantly checking that app thinking, oh, what's happening with my account? Is it going up? Is it going down? Because of that fear of losing money. And I really coach on my clients who really try and understand that fear of the losing money and where it's coming from. But also I'm able to give them the strategies of how we can actually reduce that risk. Because a lot of the clients I work with, well, most clients I work with are women and most of them are risk averse. Like they are scared and that is fine. Like as women, we've probably been shied away from the stock market quite a lot. And when we do coach, we're kind of thinking about the strategies that can help us and help them actually be able to invest confidently without fear. So whether that is definitely diversifying your portfolio for starters, only investing money that you are okay to lose, and also investing for the long term. So these are all three great strategies of actually reducing the risk, which will help you to not feel so much fear to invest. And I also want to add that the only way you can lose money investing is if you sell it. Go listen to Danielle's other podcast. She goes all the ins and outs about that. But if once you sell your investments, that is when you actually lose money. So if you just leave it in there, it can go up again. It can definitely go up again. And this is why investing for the long term is really important.
I enjoy being a long term investor. My husband is a day trader and he's been studying and focusing on day trading. And it's a different mindset. It's a different mindset, it's a different skill. And I am so much more relaxed. Like, I'm very relaxed. Like, I have my portfolio set. I have like timers where I know I'm going to go and look at it, maybe to rebalance. So I feel like I am definitely a more long-term investor focus, but I do know that there are people who have an interest like my husband on like the short term. And I love also your mitigation of risk, right? I think one of the things that makes investing scary is if you don't have all the information and you don't know what you're getting into, like the type of investments that you can get into, like stocks versus bonds versus ETFs versus mutual funds. Like there are different types of vehicles. So I found what's been enriching for my financial journey is diving into learning about investing and the different facets and what that looks like and finding me in the different ways that I could go and finding the one that fits well for me. So beyond the actual accumulation of wealth, when it comes to investing, what are some of the other benefits like building skills and other things? What would you say are some of the benefits beyond the money making opportunities?
I always say that investing can really help you just build confidence in finances generally. And the reason is because you're dealing with this risk. You actually just learn to just manage your money better. And that is because when you invest, you're investing in this risky thing and, you can lose your money any moment, but actually you kind of realize that actually I know how to manage my money. I know what's important and I know what I can put my money towards. And as I alluded to before, investing can give you options. And this is important because if you want to retire early, have work as being optional, building generational wealth, that is something that can help you. Because when you start investing and you have a long term goal, it's actually really thinking about what is it that I'm investing for? Yes, it can give us income, but what is our vision? What is the freedom that we actually want to have? And what does that actually look like? Investing can make that dream into a reality. It can become inevitable when you actually start thinking of it that way. Whether it gives you more peace, whether it gives you more stability, that is what investing can give you besides just income. Like for me and my clients, they feel more peace with money because of investing. And they're just better at other things, managing their budget, saving, all of that, paying off their debt. They know how to do all of these things because investing has really taught them to do this.
I want to give it like a actual real life example because you mentioned having an end goal or having a goal for your investments. So we have our traditional like retirement accounts, but I also invest for the long term. So as a long term investor, I have that pot of money there. And there came an opportunity in my business where I'm like, I really want to pursue this opportunity and I want to invest in my business versus investing in the stock market. So I was able to take out that investment and say, okay, I'm going to put this towards my business and kind of propel that forward. That gave me the freedom to take on that opportunity. But traditionally, like we had a goal of like that could be our semi retirement fund. And guess what? You could always build it back up. That's one of the things I think that people forget when you're investing that you can take out that cash if you need to and when you need to. So, can you speak on the liquidity of investing in the stock market?
Yeah, I agree with you because I think we've been told that don't touch your investments ever. You have to only use them when you're 65. But like you said, you can actually take them out. And the reason you're able to do that, why you've been able to do that, Danielle, depending on what you invest in, is that the stock market isn't just going to go to zero tomorrow. Just because you take the money out does not mean that you're going to have zero. Companies are still going to be making money and you're still going to be making money via market appreciation, but you still be getting dividends as well. They're still going to be giving you rewards for investing with them. So even if you take it out, you'll still be making money. It's not going to just stop just because you took it out. For example, with me, when I'm traveling at the end of the year, I'm planning to use part of my investments to fund my traveling trip. And this is because I know for a fact that if I take the money out, I'm still going to be making money. And like you say, I can just build it back up again. And I think I honestly feel like we just need to stop this, like, oh no, don't use it, because you can use it. That's what it's there for. Because then that way you can enjoy the now without waiting until 65 to enjoy it when you're a bit older, because I can put more money in and actually it's going to go up depending on whether I have shares and index funds that give me dividends, but also because of the fact that companies are going to continue making more money and their value of the shares is going to go up.
I also want to circle back on the risk that we talked about a little bit, and that there is a fact that you can lose money. Like if you decide to take out your funds during a time when the market is down or your stocks have lost value there, that's a real loss. And I want to talk about, I have this bonus podcast episode, which I'll link to, about around, I think it was Q1 2020. I talked about losing 20% of my portfolio. Like that's huge when on average, the market, like the total stock market, will go up like 8% on average. For you to nosedive 20%, and we know what happened, like, Q1 2020, we know why that was happening. But I think that it's important, like, yes, if you need to remove your funds for whatever reason, it's there, but also making sure you rein in your emotions as you're investing, because you will see on paper it go up and down. So, what are your thoughts in terms of like managing your emotions and how to pursue investing without like literally checking your account every day and micromanaging your funds as a long term investor, for example?
This is something definitely that my clients struggle with at the beginning. Is it's that sort of like high and low, feeling really good when it's high and really low when it's low, of course. I think the most important thing is to remember that this is for the long term. If you start seeing the stock market as a roller coaster, it's going to go down. It will always go down. Like what happened to you in Q1 2020. That's what happened to me in, I think it was 2022. The whole year it was minus 9%. And I was thinking, oh my days, this is the lowest I've ever seen it. And then now, again, crazy. Now it's plus 30%. So again, it's like a roller coaster. It's going to go down, but it's going to go up. And I also just want to offer to everyone listening is, statistically, if we look at, for example, the S&P 500, which is an index fund, statistically, this index fund, which tracks the top 500 companies in the USA, has gone up ever since. Yeah, it's had its dips, but actually it's statistically gone up. So that should hopefully give you some reassurance that the way that to manage that risk is to think, okay, this is for the long term. This isn't for me right now. This is for me in the future. And I'm in this for the long run. And when you're in something for the long run, you can go through those ups and downs. It's like with literally anything. It's like relationships, as an example. You're going to go through those ups and downs. It's not always going to be low. It's going to be up and down. And that's the same with the stock market. But because you're committed, that will hopefully ease your emotions. And like I tell my clients, don't have the app on your phone. Just delete it. Like that's like a quick practical tip. Don't have the app on your phone. Just delete it and forget about it. And one thing that I do, I barely even check my investments now. I check them maybe a couple times a year just to check in, to be like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And I log out. No emotion. This isn't for me right now. It's for me for the future. Even when I do take them out at the end of the year, I'm still not going to be emotionally attached, because I know that they'll just keep building up, because I'm still just going to continue investing. Nothing will stop me from investing, because I know that I'm basically just going to do this for the rest of my life. And hopefully that would help anyone listening as well.
Oh, I love that. Such practical tips, such practical tips. Now, I know that you mentioned that you're from the UK, and a lot of our listeners are from the US, but we do have lots of folks from Europe, Africa, all over the world. Are there differences between being an American investor and being from abroad investing? Is there any important things that we should know, or does it, like, regardless of where you are, you can invest in the stock market? How does that work internationally?
For us, so for the UK to the USA, it would be just the naming of the accounts. So what I would probably suggest if you're looking to invest is to, first of all, if you are working a 9 to 5, your retirement account is probably one of the best and easiest ways to start investing. And that hopefully is universal here in the USA for sure. And I think in Europe as well, like if your retirement account, especially if your employer can give you something on top of that, really look into that is one of the first things I would suggest. And also, I would look into sort of tax advantage accounts as well. That is like the main vehicle that I invest in. So I think that's a Roth IRA in America. If you're in the UK, stocks and shares ISA. In other countries, have a look to see whether there is anything. And I would say those are the two ways to really sort of like get started. And hopefully there's not too much difference. And I guess it would depend whether your country allows you to invest in different markets across the world. So luckily for me, I can invest in US, Japan, and all these places. But if you're in a certain country and you want to look at a certain market, definitely do the research to look whether that is there. But I would think that definitely retirement, your workplace giving you a pension, retirement is the first place to invest, and then looking into a tax advantage account. So this is where you don't pay tax on the money that you get, which is great. So that's what I would look into for your clients.
I love that because I've always wondered that, but I never had the opportunity to ask the question. So I appreciate it. So what I'm hearing is that there are opportunities, do your homework and do your research to find wherever you're based at what works, what will work for you. So for those who are starting out, what are some small milestones or goals that they can set around investing in the stock market if they've never invested at all?
I would say the first thing is to do some research. I think that's a good way to look into that first, is have a look of like what Danielle said and what she did, what I've done. Find the thing that works for you. Something that might work for somebody else might not work for you. Danielle, it's actually crazy what you said about your husband. Like me and my husband invest completely differently. He does invest in the stock market, but he does crypto. I don't do crypto. So again, it works for him. And then investing in the stock market for the long term works for me. So finding that. So that's a good milestone. Just deciding, okay, I like the sound of bonds. I like the sound of index funds. I like the sound of buying shares. Figure that out. And I think one of the biggest milestones, and it might not be big, is just picking the platform. A lot of people get stuck in this, and it's because you're so worried about whether it's going to be the right platform. But just know that you can always change it. You can always change the platform. It does not mean that you are committed to that platform for the rest of your life. There's different types of platforms out there. So do your research on whether you want to do it yourself or have a robo-advisor, which can be done for you depending on your attitude to risk. And I think your first milestone is just to get something in there. Get something in there and just start investing. And this is because once you put your first dollar into there and you're already an investor, that already then changes your mindset to think, oh, I'm an investor. Okay, I can do this. I put my first dollar into it. It's like when you first start saving your first dollar, you become a saver. And then you start doing that consistently, then you can build it up. So I would say those are the first 3 milestones to really think about. Just what you want to invest in, the platform, and just putting something in there. No matter how small it is, it can make such a huge difference for your life. So that's what I would suggest, the first couple of milestones.
I love that. We're keeping it simple. We're making it uncomplicated so that we can start to see those gains, which I absolutely appreciate and love. So we talked about wealth building being this long-term goal and long-term habits that we're creating for ourselves. How do you stay focused in this microwave, get rich quick society? I feel like everyone wants those quick wins. But as a long-term investor, we know that this will take years to develop and grow. So how do you stay focused? What are you doing to keep your head in the game?
Yeah, and I actually do talk about this a lot on Instagram. So go follow me on @thegrowthcorner UK. I really speak to people, millennials, people in the early 30s, late 20s, and, people like that. We don't really want to think about retirement and all of that. But actually, the way that I stay focused is I honestly just think about what I'm doing this for. And I'm not really doing this for myself. I'm doing this for my future kids. Like my future children are going to be fine because I did this. And it's finding that, not even motivation, but that thing, that why is really important. It's like, why are you investing in the first place? Because if you wanted to make money quickly, you can maybe drive for Amazon. That's something you can make money quickly. But actually, what is it about investing? What is this big goal that you want? And why is that important to you? That really thinking about it that way can really help you, because you recognize that actually it is worth doing this for the long term. Once you realize that, like, it is worth investing every month, even if you're not taking the money out right now, it is worth it. because it gives you those options. Again, it goes back to those options. It really does give you that option. Because, like I said, if you are in let's say, a 9 to 5 job that you like, you can know that actually you can quit it whenever you want. I think that's powerful. I think those things are powerful to just know that. Even if you want to travel, let's say that you're 30 or something and you want to travel in your 40s, you know that, okay, I just have to get to my 40s and I can travel and see the world and do these amazing things because of investing. So for me, it really is about thinking about the why behind what you're doing and why is it important, and really having that solidified and not having sort of a wishy-washy answer of like, oh, I just want financial freedom. Because what does that mean? What does that actually mean? Really define it for yourself. And that is the thing that's going to keep you going.
That autopilot, right? Like getting ourselves mentally and mindset wise off of the autopilot and having that groundedness, I think is so powerful. Like I have a couple of core financial goals that I've been working on for years. And I am as motivated today than I was when I first put those goals in place 5 years ago. One of them is to pay off my mortgage. Okay. I'm $50,000 down. So I'm like, woo, girl, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So that I'm very proud of. And I'm as motivated as I was when I first started. And another motivation is to be able to be work optional by 40. So that is very, very powerful. Like it's funny because my grandpa retired around 50. My mom actually will probably retire at 70. But me, I'm like, I'm going to just outdo everybody and I'm going to be like work optional by 40. So to me, that like is the motivator, the main motivator. And of course, there's other things that keep me grounded as well. But it's like, gosh, like it is empowering to know what you're doing it for, and having that reason sometimes can change and evolve, right? As well. So all of those things are so powerful. And one of the thoughts to me while you were speaking that I think that a lot of times we're not thinking about is how important saving is to investing. Can you speak on the correlation? And to me personally, I feel like when you're able to save, you have the funds to shuffle to investing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you know how to save, you can invest. That is it. Like if you already have the fundamental knowledge, the ability to save, you can definitely invest. Because at the end of the day, I kind of see investing as just saving, but you can build more out of it essentially. And you're not sort of fighting with a savings account. I think they definitely both are related. And you need both skills to be able to build wealth. Because yes, we've been talking a lot about building wealth and investing, but another important thing that you might want to think about as well is like an emergency fund as well, that's away from your investments. As someone, if you're someone who's really worried about investing and losing money, being able to save up for an emergency fund is also an important factor. So yeah, I would say both of them are really important to do. And if you know how to save, you can definitely invest. And also you can, if you wanted to, invest some of your savings. If you've got savings there, which are just there, you might want to consider investing them if they're just sat there. It depends on what it is, you know. I probably wouldn't suggest that you would invest your emergency fund because it depends on how easy accessible the investment account is, but you have that option as well to do that. So really honing in on the skill of saving, because saving kind of helps you build that consistency, right? Like you get used to saving every month, every 2 weeks or whatever. So then when you're investing, it doesn't feel like such a big jump, because then you can invest every 2 weeks, every month, and it just feels easy. It feels like something you've already done because you have with saving. It's just in a different format now.
Is it too late? Is it too late to get started with investing? I know the answer, but I want to hear from you. Is it too late?
The answer is definitely no. No matter what age you are, you can start investing. The only difference could be in the type of investments that you go for. So if you're younger, 20s, 30s, you might, do more higher risk stuff, higher risk in quotation marks here. You might go for more stocks and shares and index funds. But when you're older, you might think you can still invest because there is still things that you can invest in that can be better to your risk level. It could be, something like a bond as an example. Like there is so many things that you can invest in. So it's never too late because there's still something for you. And it doesn't mean that you can't go for these index funds either. it really just depends on how long you want to invest. So I do not think it's too late. And like I said before, the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time to start is right now. So it's not too late. You still have this possibility of building wealth, and it's there for you. It's meant for you as well.